Hello and welcome to the 1990 series. My name is Amanda O'Shea from the Serendipity Experience, and I have Mr. Laurence Knott from London joining me today. How you doing, Laurence?
I'm good. Hello, Amanda. Lovely to see you today.
Nice to see you too. Thank you for being part of this little series. And I'm in the 30s now, so I think you're number 34 or something like that, 32, 33, 34. So that's I'm more than a third of the way there. It's cool.
Amazing. And it's a great project. Congratulations. I think it's the kind of thing we get the idea to do it and then we don't. But then once you start and it starts happening and you're going to get to the end and say, wow, how did I do that? So great project.
And it's amazing. I get to catch up with everyone too, you know, and I get to sort of be able to introduce what other people are doing, and I suppose sharing a similar message to me. So I remember when I first met you. I remember it was at a training. I think it was at Robin Charbet. Was it Robin Charbet up in Marks Tay?
Yes, a one-day training with Robin. Yes, well remembered.
And I remember because you're always groovy, and you had your little hat on, or you had your little cravat, or you had your, stand out from the crowd, Mr. Laurence Knott. And it was lovely. That was the first time I met you. And getting to, we did a training together in Albeer. We did.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, and I remember that, and how, we've spent some nice times together. Rooftop soirees in Altea and things like that.
Absolutely, and there's plenty more of them to come. So yeah, amazing. Yeah,
good stuff. But I do remember the connection with you when I was on the radio. I'd had that Friday evening show, and I had somehow had access to one of the songs that you used to. Because you're a singer, songwriter, musician.
20 years ago, I was in an indie rock band, but we would sometimes do acoustic kind of country folk as well. So we were just a small, part-time indie rock band. But I used to write these nice acoustic songs. And I can't remember how it came about that you end up hearing one of my songs called Higher Ground.
Yeah.
I don't know, we must have been talking about it. I don't know if I played guitar one day and you had a real affinity for the song. So that's where that connection came from. And then obviously you talked about the radio show you had. And it went from there really. So,
and I used to play that song nearly every show. And I loved it. Like there's something about it, that higher ground. And what I remember, I was having a conversation like 3 or 4 years ago, and the song Higher Ground was pointing to something. And I remember I was having that conversation that when you wrote that song, obviously you didn't have like an understanding of the principles, or you hadn't done, sort of the work that you're doing now, so to speak. But actually you did have an understanding, because you wrote that from a place. So I just wondered if you could share. I would love to hear that again. Where did that come from? The lyrics, the story, the inspiration to write Higher Ground.
Okay, and that's really interesting, because it was a few years ago I did actually reflect on some of my old songs, the songs that I thought did actually touch something within people, thinking, well, this was 20 years ago. I was in my mid-late 20s. I felt like I had some kind of wisdom, but so I'd look, and that song I zoomed in on. So the story of that song, Higher Ground, I wrote it for a friend, and she's still one of my best friends. She's getting married next week, in fact. And she always used to go through these ups and downs. And it was like, I remember the exact idea of the lyric came from seeing The Big Lebowski. There was a particular song about checking in on my condition. So I like the alliteration, the play on words. But it was almost, the words just came out. The higher ground ain't high enough for you. So bad grammar. The higher ground isn't high enough for you. It just doesn't sound right. The higher ground ain't high enough for you. The idea, talking to my friend Joe, it's like, you're never bloody happy. Or that idea that your happiness is out there. When we say out there, I guess I was thinking at the time, look, it's not out there in the world. The world's not going to make you happy. Or out there in the future. So that's where it came from. And that's what often songwriters talk about. It's just one small idea, one lyric wrapped around just this thing, this hook. And you kind of then build the song from there. So a really simple message that it's kind of common sense though, isn't it? So you talked about, did I have the understanding? Well, I had wisdom.
Yeah.
Nothing outside of us can make us happy. We can all intuitively just know that. A number of people who I know who haven't got the understanding would say, yeah, makes sense to me. So I guess I did have access to that wisdom, but it had real power for me because I was sharing that message and telling a story, trying to basically help a friend. But I guess always talking to ourselves at the same time in doing that. So that's where it came from.
Yeah. Higher ground ain't high enough for you. And so seeing that then, seeing that you had that, what you might say, right under your nose, yeah, that shows me that everybody's got that. Everybody's
Absolutely.
got access to that.
Yeah. And I think, anyone who's been around the understanding for a while, you can look back over your life and find those examples of where you have had access to it, or you've experienced it, or you've benefited from it. But I think a lot of the conversation I have with people is that, but those times when we don't see it, or when we catch ourselves, they're the most important times. So the wisdom's always working in the background. Something is guiding us from within, but we don't notice it. We're just living life. You're just in the moment. And you don't sort of stop and go, wow, I'm really in the flow at the moment. Right. Wow, look at this. That stream of consciousness is bringing me all the right kind of insight and wisdom I need. No, you're just doing life. By distinction, those times when we most need to remember it is when we're least likely to remember. And that's the point, I think, Amanda. It's under our nose, but unless we really are aware of how it works, we're going to miss it. And that's where we end up, instead of saying, hey, I'm just having a difficult time at the moment, and we end up going down these rabbit holes and people spiral into anxiety and depression. We don't know what's taking us away from that inbuilt wisdom, that stream that's always there. So for me, it's that's why we need constant reminders. Yeah. Even those of us who are around it a lot, it's easy to forget.
Mm. And it is so like that, pointing people back to, I love like that, everything's always under your nose, or it's a bit like when you're looking for your glasses, where are they? Normally on your head. When you're looking for your keys, oh, they're in the door. Or you're looking for your purse, and you've already looked in your bag, but it wasn't there, but it was there, and we look in the most obvious places sometimes, and we don't see it. But it doesn't mean it's not there.
No, and funnily enough, I was in Manchester the last couple of days, and I said to someone I was with, I said, where's my cravat? Where's my scarf? And it was like, you're wearing it around your neck, you've tucked it into your T-shirt. I went, oh yeah, thanks. So it's nice when someone can point it out to us too, but there's this thing that I see all the time that I was alluding to it. It's like when we most need to see it, is that, well, what are the goggles we're wearing in that moment? I've learned this from Jamie. It's a really nice metaphor. People get that how we are seeing the world in that moment will determine our experience. So if I'm feeling uptight, tense, basically full of loads of thinking, and just feel really, I can't see the wood for the trees, well, I'm not going to find what I need. And it's taking that moment and the fact that we've got that understanding, realizing that the more I try and look, the more frantic I get. So I need my wisdom. I need my mental health. It's just becomes this, that is the problem. Mm. Mm. And then we catch ourselves. Mm. Because we can feel like, I don't know, from what I've seen, we can be like having people I've worked with over the years, things are going great, but you get the little bump in the road, and it's almost like you throw the baby out with the bathwater. That's a really interesting thing with these kind of conversations and the mutual support we provide as a kind of peer network. It's that, hey, we've got to remember that we're generally doing okay most of the time, and it's those moments when we depart from that wisdom that we suddenly look outside of ourselves. That's the clue to come back home. So, yeah.
It is that coming home, slowing down, simplifying things, the subtractive kind of psychology, if you like. It's not having more things to do. making it simpler, going back to what we've already got inside and having more of those times. I love what you said there. Like most of the time we're all right, but we just get on with those times. We don't analyze those times. I remember driving, we were on some, I don't know which course it was, but driving around in a camper van, we were singing some Beatles songs. Do you remember?
Yeah. It's love. I remember. Yes.
You know, we don't get out of that camper van having to sing song or to whatever it was, you know, whoever, and start questioning. Well, Laurence, do you think we've just had such a lovely journey because my mum and dad stayed together when I was younger? And you know, we don't do that, do we? We're just singing and enjoying and chatting, and you know, you're just engaging in normal things. But you know, if we were to drive around and to have had a crossword or an argument, or I don't know, or somebody was, you know, sort of not in a very good place, it's funny how then we look into it. Then we have to look, well, why was that? Then we start trying to find a reason, some sort of hook that we can put that on.
Absolutely, yeah. And you know what? I see more and more, and the more urgent the feeling that we need to find the why and to understand, or to make it clear to someone else that, hey, I need to work this through with you, the more urgency there is, the more neediness there is to it. Again, there's clues. You're not going to get what you want with that approach. I will call it an approach, because you're actually taking yourself away from what you need in that moment. So it's like, you know, this idea that there's information in the feeling all the time.
Yeah.
But isn't that nice to know? Because that means we can save ourselves so much grief.
Absolutely.
So I'm talking about a moment-to-moment kind of wisdom. But the thing is like, when we don't see it, it seems to, this is just metaphorical, accumulate. And then when we have those crashes, maybe, you know, we haven't been sleeping well. Maybe we have actually got a lot of external stuff going on and we're jumbled around with everything we're trying to cope with. And then we can kind of like get overwhelmed. And then suddenly everything seems big. And therefore I need to look for answers. I need to look for solutions to problems that actually aren't what they seem. I've created a lot of mental activity. I've created a lot of work for myself. I see this for myself all the time. It's like, you've said it. We've got to slow up. We've got to catch ourselves. This is everyday wisdom. And interestingly, sometimes where I talk about it, I make it so ordinary. This is just common sense. Yeah. But we can't see it ourselves a lot of the time. Even those of us who've been around a bit for a while. It's so deceptive.
And that's the idea, to make it look real. So the idea is that we're bringing thought alive, we're bringing everything alive. So the idea is that it does feel real. And who would want to stop that lovely richness of feeling when you're listening to music or listening to that song or playing in the band or watching a band or whatever it is that you're doing? You wouldn't want to turn the volume down on that. But seeing that the same thing is happening when we're, I don't know, hanging out at a lower place, the insecurity, the discomfort, the frustration, things not going the way we want, it's kind of helpful for me to know that I can turn the volume down until it's gone.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? It's that when we are struggling, the default response is to start looking outside. I need to fix this. I need to change this experience. Or if we're really overwhelmed, turn it into this big, I'll say, psychodrama about me and my life and how I've screwed up and what does this mean for the future? And this huge narrative that basically comes out of nowhere.
Now, if I'm caught up in that state, I forget there's a dial to turn it down because I'm in it. I'm in it. The moment you've got that you catch it, or you have your own insight of what am I doing? Like, what am I doing? What am I doing to myself? That's when it's available, the chance to turn it down. But you know, and seeing like that higher ground ain't higher ground ain't high enough for you. Is that lyric?
Absolutely, yeah.
You know, So it makes sense why some people feel like, yeah, they're never happy, or it's never good enough. And I think we probably all might know somebody in our lives, whether it's in ourselves or in our family or in the workplace or something, somebody who shows a habit of that. Somebody who shows a habit of, nothing's ever going to quite tick the boxes. They're continuously searching and seeking, and it might not be that obvious, it might not be that obvious, but there's always something where it's never just like, perfect, right here, right now.
Yeah. And that always comes from, and it's the interesting thing, you don't have to have an understanding of the principles to just know, basically, when you have that sense of lack, well, if I'm lacking something, what do? You go looking for it. So that's a fundamental belief. But as we would talk about it around the principles, it's a misunderstanding.
And that helped me so much, because what I loved about being introduced to the inside out understanding, or the 3 principles, is it put an end for me for all the searching and seeking. And that's so nice.
And isn't it interesting that it becomes a sense of relief? If there's one thing, I'd be interesting when you take a step back, even 6 months after you've completed your 90 conversations, what are the central themes? And I put it out there that sense when you basically really see how it works and you really feel it viscerally, it's a sense of relief. It's well, that's a breathing out. And here's, I don't know, maybe something to sort of the way I often talk about insights now. You talk about the subtractive process.
Yeah.
Well, I've just breathed something out. I've let go of something.
Yeah.
How is it those people we know who are most relaxed and comfortable with life, whether they've got the understanding or not, they've got it. They're loose, where they're not burdened with the misunderstanding, not burdened with the basically belief that something outside of me can make me feel whole.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more flow to that.
There is, and there's not so much control, right? Like, that fear-based control where we're trying to make things happen in a certain way. And it's so much nicer to be around people like that.
Absolutely. And, think of it this way. So I'm going to loop back to, we've always got it inside of us. Well, did I have to consciously go looking for that? Or did it just come through? Did it reveal itself? Did it arrive fully formed? Yes, and yes. So I think it's quite a nice thing to be able to be introspective about, those moments in my life, actually, I have had this. It has always been under my nose. And then, we can let ourselves off the hook, forgive ourselves for those times in our life that, it kind of explains why I maybe went astray or I went looking in the wrong places. We can be okay with that. Yeah. And that helps us be compassionate for others when we are able to be compassionate for ourselves.
You're so right. For me, it explains all human behavior. And that doesn't mean I condone bad behavior, but I understand where it comes from, and I understand the innocence, if you like, behind it. And it's innocent until we don't realize what we're when it's innocent when we don't realize what we're doing. But when we do realize, when we have been pointed in this direction, our own consciousness speaks to us. We know when we're doing something that's kind of serving us well or not. We know because it comes with a feeling. That's a gift.
Absolutely. And it's, sometimes people want to make it really practical. And from my point of view, it's like when I know I'm in that flow, I'm in that, right, let's get on with life. Let's do the difficult things. Let's take on the challenges.
Yeah.
But with nothing on it kind of thing.
Yeah. Bring it on, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Absolutely, yes.
And I think that's what, I have such respect for all of you musicians, because seeing you when you're in flow, seeing you when you are, when you're singing, or when you are so present, you're so in the moment. For me, that's what lands, That's what I get. Like, you know, when you're in it, or you're on the stage, or you're just even at home on the video playing your guitar, you know, and whatever it might be. But other people get to get a glimpse of that, and they just get to hear that, or they get to see that.
Absolutely. And, you know, maybe there's a way to sort of wrap it up there. It's the idea that when we are in that flow, it's not really personal. We haven't got ourselves on our minds. We're not thinking. Obviously, we're doing something, but we're connected to something. A lot of, you know, successful performers will say, look, this is coming through me. Yeah. Or Beyonce, she's got really nice quotes about how she feels connected and at one with the audience. She's tapping into deep spirit there. That just is so, people notice that.
Yeah. That's pure, that's authentic. That's what we buy. That's
absolutely, yes. And without sort of like, it's interesting, you know, who's going to be watching this? A lot of, you know, fellow principals, coaches, teachers, therapists. It's an interesting thing when someone's new to it. You're trying to find that something in someone. What makes them really light up?
Yeah.
Makes them really come alive. Now you're using that as an entry point to awaken them to something that is inside of them, but they might not have noticed, or they've written off, or they feel like they've lost touch with. A bunch of thoughts there. And if you can just awaken that spark, whether it is something, it's like, why are you asking me about my hobbies? I'm like, well, and you just obviously work through that. It's like, I just want to see that spirit come alive within you.
Yeah.
Then point you in that direction, because it never went away.
Yeah. It's so like that. You're just putting up the passion stick, you know. It's like, and the spark. I love that, because the flame never went out. It just got really dim, right? And it's like you come along with your lighters, your guns are blazing, and you know, it's not that we do anything but just nudge people back to that. And it's infectious. You show up with your loving presence, it's infectious. It's like the best virus in town.
Amazing. Lovely way to put it.
Yeah, so we'll go, you know, and the great thing is we don't even have to do anything. We don't have to go spread the love or go share. We just have to be in that presence. The rest just happens. So, Laurence, thank you for all the joy that I've experienced listening to you and your music and being around you, and the little glow of light that comes with you when you show up, or you're in an event, or, you know, I see what you're up to. Thank you, because it's, you know, you're doing good stuff. Thank you very much for everything that you're doing.
Well, thank you for inviting me, Amanda. And again, to reiterate, this is a great project, a great thing to do. And I don't know, next time we'll see each other, might be on a rooftop in Albia or Altea. So
you never know. Yeah, no, good fun times, good memories.
Amazing to see you as well. So thank you.
Lots of love to you. Bye, sweetheart. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you for listening.